Hey there, my name's Phyllis and I'm the head of technology at Solar, former lead platform engineer. And today I'll tell you how we scaled our platform adoption at Solar using the shape up method by Basecamp. Now, first, a little bit about Solar. Solar has installed PV systems on roofs across Germany for the last 8 years. We started as a primarily operations focused business and over time transitioned into a software enabled company. With over 10 tech teams, we worked on digitalizing the whole PV installation journey. Then, last October, we decided to pivot into a new direction. Solar now offers a software as a service platform that manages the PV installation journey end to end. My talk today focuses on platform engineering in small and mid sized companies. Before we dive in, I'll give you a quick rundown of the history of platform engineering at Solar, from birth to the turbulent teenage years. When I joined Solar at the end of 2021, the state of platform engineering was dead. We had one very skilled developer that did everything infrastructure. He received a lot of direct messages. There were long waiting times. People were often blocked by infra. There was no transparency, but a whole lot of stress. So together we set a mission and goals and we started shifting our focus towards you build it, you run it. In practice, that meant improving observability, documentation, moving from an infrastructure as code monolith to modular infra with a CDK library. People could now provision their infrastructure within their own repositories using TypeScript. We provided golden paths on top of that with high level and opinionated CDK constructs, such as a zolar container application. We were really proud of our progress, but there were still some problems. So, actually, platform adoption was relatively low. We had some features that were never picked up. And those that were picked up were only picked up after a long time. So the average feature adoption time was 1 month. People with previous infra experience really liked our tooling, but less infra savvy folks experienced it as a burden. Often we heard things like, I don't have time for this. Can you just do it for me? I'm not a DevOps engineer. And on top of that, people gave us the feedback that when they requested a feature, they often received it too late for it to actually be impactful. So they could not rely on getting our support in the time that they needed it. We reflected on that important feedback and noticed that there was a conflict of interest. Our team was required to work with OKRs, which were aligned with the company priorities. But in practice, other topics often came up throughout the quarter that were more important. These topics were related to our stakeholders' OKRs, and often these OKRs had direct end customer value. Of course, we always reserve time for support work, but in a startup mode with the mentality take the bridge when you get to it, the project our developers were working on often needed more significant changes to the platform. For instance, a developer would come to us and say, Operations just told us they need additional information X in the new report we're building, but this only lives in Salesforce. Can you integrate Salesforce into our messaging bus? At this point, you can either reprioritize or tell them to wait for up to 3 months, so the next OKR cycle. And honestly, neither of those seemed like a very good option. So the developers were frustrated because they can't wait for 3 months for their requested projects. And so they didn't really trust that we were supporting them in the right way and that we were bringing value to them. We also were frustrated because we wanted to help Solar achieve their main goal, install more PV systems, and we wanted to provide good DevEx. So we asked ourselves the question, can't we decide on projects just in time? Rather than plan the work of 3 months ahead of time, we wanted to decide on the most important priority when we actually had time to pick it up. This process, of course, needs a very good structure, so that's why we turned to Basecamp's shape up method. The shape up method is a product development process that focuses on three different stages. First, the shaping stage. During the shaping stage, you take an idea or a problem and you transform it into a pitch. This is often done by a very senior member of your team and will take roughly 2 weeks. The pitch that this person ends up with, or this pair ends up with, is not a detailed step by step implementation plan, but rather a fat marker sketch. It's important that it defines the key element and technical decisions that are needed to implement a solution in a predefined time, but it shouldn't go into too much detail. In order for the project to be implemented in a predefined time, it's also important that the pitch addresses limitations and potential rabbit holes. We need to know what will not happen as part of the project. Now, after 2 to 3 projects have been shaped, this happens in parallel, we move on to the betting step. During the betting step, the shaped pitches are presented to members of the management team or stakeholders. In this meeting, people decide which of the project will be implemented. The other projects will be discarded. There is no backlog because important things come up again. Once one project is chosen, you move on to the building phase. In the building phase, a small team comes together for the implementation of the project during a predefined implementation time. We call this the appetite and can be up to 6 weeks. All the needed skills need to be present in the implementing team, and the implementing team should not be engaged in other work during this time. This is important such that the appetite can be met, such that you can actually give a realistic estimate. It's this team's responsibility to make sure that the project goals are achieved within the appetite. This team often breaks the bigger project up into smaller scopes that will be implemented in parallel, such that work can be done independently of each other. This team is also responsible for cutting scope if they believe that the goal cannot be achieved within the appetite, within the predefined time. This sounded really good for us, but we still had 3 questions. Firstly, how do we decide what to pitch? How do we prioritize? Secondly, who is engaged in the betting process and how? And thirdly, how do we limit distractions for the building team while also ensuring that the overall platform team still functions and supports stakeholders with ad hoc requests? So, first, how do we decide what to pitch? When we talked about pitching, we thought about how we define priority. And for us, this is the combination of our users' needs and our requirements for a development platform. So it's important for us that both users' needs and our input is like influences the proposals and the pitches. To get ongoing feedback from our stakeholders, we set up a stakeholder roundtable with one regular representative per team. These happen on a regular basis with varying agendas. We sometimes do demos, feedback rounds, betting. We will get to that. We often send around a questionnaire to the representatives beforehand, where we ask them concrete feedback questions that we ask them to provide before the meeting. Then this way we can summarize them and briefly discuss it in the meeting. It also gives more introverted people an opportunity to give valid feedback, and overall, discussing the feedback just takes less time. Keep in mind that this meeting is really expensive, so you want to make sure to prepare it well. This could be a role in your team that either rotates or is fixed, and make sure that this meeting is prepared. Yeah, you also do not want your you want your stakeholders to want to come to this meeting. This should be a meeting that is valuable to them, so it needs to get the proper attention during preparation. Also, we wanted to include data that we already have access to. So people send us requests all the time. We analyze those requests and split them into different types of requests. So, for instance, there are some requests we actually want to receive, such as feature requests. It means people are using our platform and they want more of it. Other requests we don't like so much. We don't like access requests. So, if over a certain period of time we receive a lot of access requests, this is also feedback for us that maybe we should change access management. In order to have a North Star in this ever changing prioritization process, we also defined a platform mission and a platform vision and hold regular workshops where we discuss our strategy for the near future. We ask ourselves the question: where do we see our platform at the end of 2023, 25, or what do we want our customers to say about us at the end of the year? Of course, we also regularly look at OKRs and roadmaps of the team to inform the projects that we propose. Now, we have a couple of topics that we want to pitch, and we will create the pitches using our template. We always include problems to solve, the appetite, so how much time are you willing to spend on this? What are potential rabbit holes? Are there any risks and problems that could complicate solving the problem and implementing the project in a set time? What are limitations? What will you definitely not do? Then solutions for us are always flow and architecture diagrams and some notes. So this is really the fastest way to represent how we're going to implement something that is accessible to those that will implement it. Nothing too fancy. And we always include how to measure success. So we want to know how we can concretely show that this project brought value before we started. Now we have our pitches, 2 to 3 pitches, and we are moving on to the betting process. Who is engaged in the betting process and how? I already mentioned the stakeholder roundtable. And yeah, we always make sure that that our representative from the stakeholder roundtable joins these meetings. Also, don't forget to invite other people a certain project is relevant to. If you have something security related, also invite someone from the security team. We always make sure that the meeting is open to any participants that are interested. That means several people from a team could join. Everyone gets one vote. So the more people join that want the same project as you, the more likely it will be implemented. So it actually makes sense to come. At the end of the meeting, the group decides on one proposal and all others are discarded. Here you can see a quick picture of what our high-level software development process looks like. So yeah, we have now defined the project proposal, we held a stakeholder roundtable, and we will now move on to implementing the proposed project. During the implementation, we need to make sure to limit distractions for the building team. For us to implement, for our implementation process, we decided every project would be owned by a pair. This pair does not participate in platform support requests. For the pair, we aim to choose people that do not have a longer vacation planned during the execution time. However, contrarily to how Basecamp does it, we still ask people to join our rituals, such as stand ups, to share knowledge. This is because other team members can pick up tickets related to the project and ask the owners for support and input. Given that we use this way of working continuously, we found that it's not possible for us to implement the projects in full isolation. We have tried it, but we noticed people go on vacation. You want to uphold a communal spirit in the team. People are sick, things happen, and you can't pause work because individual people are gone. So no bus factor for us. Um, yeah. Now just a quick example of how we track progress. So, in the shape up methodology, you differentiate between figuring things out and making things happen. The figuring things out phase is the uphill phase um, because this is when there is more unknown. So, it's still harder to understand when something will be done. Whereas making things happen is also hard, but it's the downward slope because you already have more clarity on when you will finish and that there are no challenges in your way to finishing. This way of tracking progress is easy for the team to maintain, but it's also very valuable for managers, stakeholders, anybody who is interested to quickly take a look at and get an update without having to interrupt the team to get input from them. Now that I've introduced the process and how we implement it at Solar, I want to talk a little bit about our learnings. So, first of all, to the numbers. After we implemented this method, the average feature adoption time decreased from 1 month to just 1 week. Also, all of our features were now picked up by the developers. Why did this happen? We partnered with them. Those were often projects that they were already waiting for. So by the time that we were done, they took the time and they planned the time to pick it up and use it immediately. This way, we could have a more direct impact on what is provided to the end customers. We also noticed that this increased trust and buy-in meant that they were also more open to picking up other things that we provided. So not only the things that they requested. Something I want to highlight particularly is that you should always include how do you measure success in your template. For us, it really helped to scope our MVPs to the smallest measurable thing, and it can also help advocate and give transparency about your impact in the company. I suggest that when you plan and start your project, you already set a time to validate those success measures because not everything will be measurable on day zero when you release. Make sure you present this also in your stakeholder roundtable and to anybody else who's interested so that everyone transparently knows what you have impacted, what have you added to the organization, and also what do you need to do better, what have you learned. And what we also noticed in this process is that by including people in the vetting process, we made it more transparent to our stakeholders that platform engineering team is a constrained resource. When people joined our Betting meetings, sometimes they were even betting for a project that wasn't the most favorable for their team because they noticed this is really important for another team. So it also increased collaboration across the teams. And essentially, the platform is also a place for collaboration because this is where all the teams that might work on very different projects come together. Another benefit we saw is that feature leads were a very good way for upskilling individual developers and helping them grow into more senior positions. And it also helps give visibility in the organization. If somebody who might even be in a junior or mid level position can show the impact that they have on driving a project. Now, finally, keeping focus is still hard. So discuss this regularly with your team. See what needs to be improved. Bring this to your retros to make sure that you can stay focused during your project time and you can also iteratively improve your process. If you have any thoughts on this, questions or ideas, then say hi on LinkedIn and check out what we're up to at zolar.com. Thank you very much for listening.